Discover 3 sinister and spine-chilling, true horror stories that remain unexplained to this day. The Johnson family thought they were stepping into a dream when they moved to Maplewood, Pennsylvania. The paint was fresh, the lawn was perfectly manicured, and the neighbors were warm and welcoming. Yet, as they settled into their new home, an unsettling chill lurked beneath the seemingly perfect surface. It was a cozy Friday night, and the aroma of freshly baked cookies filled the air. Laughter echoing through the home felt reassuring, wrapping them in a cocoon of comfort. But beneath that veneer of joy, shadows lingered. Emma, the spirited teenager, had an insatiable curiosity that led her to explore the attic. The moment she pulled down the creaky door, a cloud of dust danced in the air like ghosts whispering secrets. Among the dusty boxes, she found old newspaper clippings yellowed with age. "Sinister disappearances in Maplewood," one headline screamed. Her heart raced as she read terrifying accounts of families vanishing without a trace, tales our parents had dismissed as urban legends. With trembling fingers she shared them at dinner, but the laughter that followed felt strained, nervous. "Just old stories," they chuckled. All the while, an ominous feeling twisted in Emma's stomach. Yet the real terror began when Lily, the playful 8-year-old, started hearing whispers in the night. "Lily, come play," came the soft calls, haunting and unsettling. She sat up in bed, wide-eyed, shaking her head in disbelief. When her family brushed off her fears as mere imagination, the weight of unspoken dread settled deeper. Michael's late-night shifts at the factory grew heavier with unshakable anxiety. The peaceful nights morphed into unsettling disturbances. Shadows hovered just out of sight, and strange echoes filled the silence, twisting into distinct voices. Desperate to ease their fears, the Johnsons turned to their friendly neighbor, Mr. King. He often brought them baked goods, smiling with a sweetness that concealed darker woes. But as Emma observed him from the window, a strange chill rippled through her. Something was off about his gaze. Intense, fixated. A creeping dread knotted her stomach. Was it her imagination, or was he watching her? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The news of their concerns fell on deaf ears at the local authorities, who laughed off their fears. "Just adjusting to a new place," they chuckled, sending shivers down Emma's spine. They felt isolated, trapped. Emma threw herself into research, digging deeper into Maplewood's dark past. As she flipped through the records at the town's dusty archives, one chilling tale emerged, a betrayal tied to dark forces lurking beneath their home. With heart pounding, Emma confronted Mr. King, who stood on his porch as if waiting for her. The atmosphere crackled with tension. The folklore she uncovered clawed at her mind, an ancient curse consuming families who turned a blind eye to history. Murmurs of betrayal and dark rituals flowed through her thoughts, tightening her grip on reality. As shadows moved closer, wrapping around their home like a predator, terror gripped the Johnsons. Suddenly, their family bonds seemed frail, unraveling in the face of their harrowing realization. In this suburban facade, the past was alive, and the walls were closing in. Would they uncover the truth in time, or would they succumb to the darkness that haunted Maplewood? The air thickened with dread inside the Johnson home. The whispers that haunted Lily grew bolder, weaving through the night like serpents, curling themselves around her tiny frame. "Play with us. They lured her again, softer, almost sweet, as if promising something joyful. But Emma lay awake, fear climbing into her throat. She could almost feel the shadows creeping up her spine. "Mom!" Lily called out from her room, voice trembling. The parents rushed in, but the room was empty of anything but the mundane, plush toys, butterfly stickers, and the faint smell of vanilla. "It's just a bad dream," they soothed, but the quivering in their voices betrayed them. They left the door ajar, unsure whether to let in light or darkness. That night, as moonlight peered through the curtains, Emma heard a voice just outside her window. "Emma, come quickly." She jumped from her bed, adrenaline shooting through her limbs. There was something in the way it spoke, an eerie mix of familiarity and cold detachment. She hesitated, searching the darkened yard, but nothing moved beneath the silver light. Her mother's voice echoed down the hall. "Emma, what's wrong?" "Nothing, just nothing." But panic gripped her heart, and she clenched her fists, willing herself to stay still. She glanced at her phone, the time ticking deeper into the night. 2:13 a.m. The world felt off-kilter, tilted toward shadows. In the morning, the effects of the night lingered like a tattered shadow. Michael left for work, passing Mr. King's house. The neighbor stood on the porch, pale and lingering. His smile was absent, leaving only emptiness where kindness used to reside. As their eyes met, the corner of his mouth twitched up, teasing a smirk that made chills race down Michael's spine. Something was very wrong with Mr. King. Emma sat at the dining table, glancing at the newspaper clippings she had hastily left out. They were now ragged and brittle, the headlines screaming for attention, and yet her family remained oblivious, caught in mundane routines. "Look for clues in the past," they had said. "Those kids who vanished. Betrayed." She felt the words slither into her thoughts, uninvited. Then, out of nowhere, a crash echoed through the living room. Emma bolted from the table, heart thundering wildly. What was it? She reached the living room, breath hitching in her throat. A framed photo had tumbled to the ground, one of their family. But it was the picture of the previous owners. In the space where the parents should have stood, one shadow remained. A dark figure blurred in the corner, eyes watching, waiting. Emma felt bile rise. The figure exuded malevolence. "What's happening?" she whispered, panic clawing at her chest. The atmosphere felt charged, an electric threat lingering, as if the walls were alive, begging her to leave. "Lily!" Emma yelled, racing back to her sister's room. They needed to figure this out. They needed to escape whatever nightmare Maplewood was trying to entrap them in. She burst into the room, but Lily wasn't there. "Lily!" The name escaped her lips in a desperate plea. Fear flooded her as she scanned the empty space. "Where are you?" Suddenly a faint giggle rang out from the attic. Emma's blood ran cold. The playful laughter sent droplets of ice shooting down her spine. She approached the attic door slowly, hesitating at the threshold. Listen, was that the whispers again? Emma took a deep breath and gripped the handle. Was it her sister's giggle or the lure of the abyss? She felt the weight of history beneath her, pulling her closer, echoing with secrets waiting to be unearthed. Dark, twisted secrets. Would she dive into the shadows that swirled above her head, or would she turn back in time? What awaited in the attic could change everything. Emma plunged into the darkness, and time seemed to hold its breath. The attic door creaked open, a breath of musty air sweeping around Emma like a shroud. She hesitated, her heart thumping violently against her ribcage as shadows crammed every corner, bending shapes that hid from the light. The faint giggle echoed again, more playful, still chilling. It pulled her upward, a siren call she couldn't ignore. With each step onto the creaky wooden floor, the sounds of night faded, replaced by a sinister choir of whispers. The darkness loomed large, swallowing any courage she hoped to grasp. "Lily!" she called out, voice trembling. The silence that followed wrapped tighter around her, draping her in despair. Why are you scared, Emma?" The voice was sweet, draped in innocence, but tinged with something dark. It sounded like Lily, yet everything about it felt wrong. "You promised you'd come play." Emma squinted into the pitch blackness, searching hopelessly for any sign of her sister. "Where are you?" She had to resist the urge to retreat. Clenching her fists, she steadied herself and stumbled forward. She didn't remember the attic being this big or cluttered. Old furniture and boxes loomed like sentinels, and the air thickened with an unsettling presence. As she moved deeper, she spotted the outline of a trunk against the wall, half buried under a pile of dusty sheets. Something about it drew her closer. An image flickered in her mind. Lily, her bouncy curls shining under the sun, laughing. The contrast made the giggling seem like a digital echo, corrupted. "Emma!" The voice returned, distant and deeper, back to the childlike tone. The trunk seemed to pulse, as if inviting her to open it, to let loose what it dared to hold. "You won't find her, you know. Just come and play." "You're lying!" Emma shouted, panic surging through her veins. But a small part of her wanted to believe that maybe, just maybe, it was not a lie. That if she opened the trunk, she might find her sister inside, safe and sound. Taking a breath, she reached for the latch, her fingers trembling so hard she almost withdrew. What could be waiting inside? A piece of her heart wavered, knowing that every horrific story she had tucked away in her mind could very well seep into this moment. Suddenly the whispers rose, a cacophony of voices tumbling violently over one another. "Let's play forever," they cooed. "You'll never leave us." She flung the trunk open, and a cloud of dust burst forth like a spectre, silver in the beam of dim light. But nothing, no toys, no memories, just dark, yawning emptiness. A mirror lay inside, its surface perfectly intact, but reflecting not her face, but the attic behind her, filling it with shadows that twisted and turned. "Emma, look!" The sound of Lily's voice brightened the shadows. Emma spun around, grasping the air. There was nothing there. Panic clawed at her throat. "Who are you?" Emma shouted at the mirror, heart racing. "Where is Lily?" A deep, throaty laugh responded, echoing unnaturally. "We're all here, Emma. Or maybe you should ask who really is gone." The room grew darker, the air thick with an unseen weight, and Emma felt the walls close in. She caught a blurry glimpse of figures passing in the glass, faces twisted in agony. Lily's giggle transformed into a shriek, one that seemed to cut through the fabric of time itself. Intensity crashed over Emma as reality began to blur. She took a step back, crashing into a pile of boxes with a thud. Was there a way out? Was she losing her mind? Panic blurred the edges of her awareness. Suddenly, the attic door slammed shut with a thunderous bang. Emma gasped, spinning around, her breaths quickening into desperate gasps. "Let me out! I need to find her!" But the mirror pulsed, a single phrase reverberating through her skull. "You've opened the past, and it will never let you leave." And then everything went dark. Emma's last thought echoed like a dying breath, suspended in the abyss. Where is Lily? As darkness enveloped her completely, a flicker of light emerged at the far end of the attic. Was it a way out, or a deeper plunge into the unknown? Emma strained forward, terrified yet drawn inescapably towards it. What lay ahead could redefine everything they had ever known, or end it all. The flicker danced, beckoning her closer. Would she dare follow? The flicker grew as Emma pressed on, illuminating the corners of the attic in a sickly yellow hue. Shadow puppets danced along the walls, mimicking her every move. The light seemed alive, pulsing with anticipation, drawing her nearer, even as her instincts screamed for her to turn back. "Come play," the airy whispers called again, echoing in her ears like a haunted lullaby. The sound trickled into her mind, tightening its grip. Emma took another hesitant step toward the light. the floorboards creaking beneath her weight as if trying to warn her. "Lily!" she cried out, desperation clawing at her throat. The name felt like a lifeline in a storm, but it pulled her deeper into the surreal nightmare. Moments stretched like shadows, and with each breath, reality felt more like a fragile illusion. Just as she reached the flickering glow, the light suddenly extinguished, plunging her back into darkness. A gasp escaped her lips. The silence returned, heavy and suffocating. All the air seemed to be sucked out of the room, and fear nestled deep in her bones. She was utterly alone. Then, like a cruel taunt, the playful giggle erupted from nowhere, the sound ricocheting around her, sinister and mocking. "You were so close, Emma, so close!" "Show yourself!" she yelled, voice cracking, the fear morphing into rage. "Just show yourself!" The silence hung thick, wrapped in a suffocating blanket of anticipation. Emma's heart raced, a frantic drumbeat against the tyranny of darkness. Suddenly, shadows began to swirl, coalescing into what looked like a figure draped in a tattered gown made of night. Emma squinted, trying to make sense of the apparition. "It's your fault, you know," it hissed, voice a serpentine whisper that slid under her skin like ice. "You wanted to find her, but you weren't supposed to come here. Not now." "Where is Lily?" Emma snapped, furious tears dampening her cheeks. "What did you do to her?" The figure's laughter filled the attic, a chilling echo that felt like a dagger buried deep in her heart. "She's here somewhere, lost between the light and dark. You opened the door, and now she plays with the others." Confusion wrapped around Emma like a vice. "The others? What do you mean?" The shadow seemed to expand, absorbing the dim light from the attic. "Souls that couldn't leave, like you." A visceral understanding hit her. This wasn't just a trap for her sister. It was a web of lost souls, caught and twisted by the darkness of that cursed attic. That realization sent shivers racing down her spine. "No! I won't stay here!" Emma screamed. But the oppressive force only grew, pressing in on her, and the attic began to vibrate. The walls around her seemed to pulse with a life of their own, the mirror now shimmering ominously in the corner of her vision. Reflections shifted and morphed, showing her distorted images, Lily's face, twisted in shadows, crying out for help. "Emma!" The voice drifted through the space once more, both close and distant. With a surge of desperate strength, she lunged for the mirror, fighting back the despair that clawed at her heart. She understood now. It was a portal, a gateway to something else, something she couldn't comprehend. But it could be the key to finding Lily or sealing her fate forever. Emma braced herself, feeling the weight of her choice looming ahead. Would she dive into the darkness to rescue her sister, risking everything? As she transported herself closer to the mirror's surface, the room shook violently. Shadows lashed out, clawing at her, desperate to pull her back. "Join us!" they shrieked, their tortured voices piercing her resolve. With one final breath, Emma answered the call, plunging into the mirror just as its glass shattered into shards that scattered like stars in a dark sky. The sound of her world cracking echoed in her ears, and for a heartbeat, she felt free. But what awaited her on the other side? The pieces of shattered reality swirled around her, and as light vanished completely, terror seeped back in, pulling her towards the unknown once more. The cold hit Emma like a slap. She stumbled into a void, the air thick with a chilling weight that squeezed her chest. Darkness surrounded her, a smothering blanket that pressed in from all sides. She fought to take a breath, but the air was stale, as if she had submerged in a forgotten tomb. Her heart raced as fragments of reality began to take shape around her. Shadows flickered, darting to and fro, teasing her with faint glimmers of movement. A distant chime echoed, a sound like laughter but twisted, sinister. "Emma, you're home now," it whispered, the words coiling around her ears. "Home?" she muttered, her voice barely a whisper. The word turned cold, icy fingers sliding over her skin. This wasn't home. It felt more like a nightmare, a labyrinth of despair. Emma turned, scanning her surroundings. The air shimmered and bent, distorting the space like warped glass. In the distance, she spotted dim, flickering lights, lanterns bobbing and weaving as if guided by unseen hands. They drew her forward, an instinctive pull despite the bile rising in her throat, warning her against it. "Lily!" she shouted, her voice swallowed by the oppressive air. Dread settled over her like a heavy coat. She felt like an interloper in this haunted realm. As she moved closer to the lights, a figure stepped into view, round, familiar. "Emma!" Lily cried, her face illuminated by one of the lanterns. But there was something off, something that made Emma's stomach twist. Lily's eyes were wide, but not with fear. There was something else there, a lightness, a glee that sent alarm bells ringing in Emma's mind. "You found me," Lily beamed, but her voice took on a lurking edge. "We can play together." "Play? This isn't a game," Emma shot back, fear flooding her veins like ice. "We need to get out of here, Lily. This place, it's wrong." "But you're here now. They all want to play." Lily giggled again, holding up her lantern. The light flickered ominously, and the shadows surged, intertwining with her sister's laughter. The warm glow of their childhood suddenly felt like an electric shock filled with dread. With a jerky movement, other figures appeared from the shadows, each emanating a flickering light. Their faces were familiar but twisted. Friends, distant relatives, all caught in the throes of eternal playfulness, captured by the darkness. Each gaze glinted with the same enticing eeriness that surrounded Lily. "Join us, Emma," one of them urged. A sweet voice mingled with a sinister undertone. "You were meant to be here, like us." "No, that's not true," Emma shouted, backing away. But the shadows circled her, pulling her into their playful grasp. Their laughter echoed, no longer innocent, but chilling and sharp. "You can't escape." She turned to Lily, who stood at the center of it all, her face a mask of delight twisted by unseen malice. "Why are you doing this?" Emma cried. "Please, fight it." Lily's smile faltered for a heartbeat. "But it's so fun here. We can have parties, forever and ever." Terror clawed at Emma. She caught glimpses of others, faces twisted in despair, shadows reaching out as if begging for release. Losing grasp on her own sanity, she began to scream, "I won't stay. I won't be like you." The world around her distorted further, bending into nightmarish shapes. The walls of darkness slammed against her, the laughter intensifying, a cacophony of torment. Splashing in the chaos, Emma grasped for something tangible, anything to pull her from this hell. But shadows lashed out with tendrils formed from despair, wrapping around her wrists, pulling her slowly towards the dancing figures. "Help us!" they cried, voices merging into one sinister chorus, begging and taunting. "Stay here with us forever." With a final surge of will, Emma's eyes darted to the nearest flickering lantern. Desperate, she broke through the shadows, reaching for the light. "No!" she screamed, summoning all the strength she had left. Just before she touched it, the shadows pulled her back, keeping the warmth at bay. "You're one of us now," they hissed, breath cold against her skin. And in that moment, she knew she was at a precipice, a defining moment that could seal her fate or bring the truth crashing down. Would she truly become a part of the lost, or could she fight against this sinister, twisted play? The shadows closed in, the laugh of her sister echoing like a cursed promise. Darkness surged and twisted around Emma, blurring her thoughts and filling her mind with dread. The laughter grew louder, an insatiable crescendo that gripped her heart like a vice. She was being pulled into an abyss where every smile felt like a dagger. She closed her eyes, focusing on the single thought of escape. "Think, Emma, think. That flicker of light had promised solace, a way out, but the shadows tightened their grasp, their cold fingers seeping through her skin, into her bones. Frantic, she wrestled against their hold, each tug sending her closer to resignation. "Emma!" Lily's voice sliced through the madness, sharp and clear. Emma opened her eyes to see her sister glowing under the lantern's flicker, face radiant with a chilling joy. "Why fight? Join me! This place is wonderful!" Choking on despair, Emma shook her head violently. "You're not Lily anymore!" Lily tilted her head, as if considering, a flicker of confusion breaking through her mirth. The figures surrounding them paused, the laughter dimming to a hush, shifting their attention towards Emma. "But I am," Lily insisted, voice tinged with something sharp, something bitter. "You should have come for me. We were meant to be here, where the games never end." "No, you can't," Emma began, but the shadows surged forward, his voice enveloping her like a thick fog, smothering her, desperately clawing hope. "Playtime is all you need," they chanted, incanting the words in harmony, teasing and taunting. "You belong with us!" Emma felt a pull, an insidious whisper in her mind suggesting obedience. A flicker of horror shot through her. Could she really give in? Could she become one of them? Panic surged through her veins, igniting her spirit. She would not lose herself. "Shut up!" she screamed, forcing every ounce of her will into the shout. The force of her voice sent ripples through the shadows, making them waver like smoke. For a fleeting moment, she saw the faces around her, twisted, desperate, but still permeated with memories of laughter. Desperation coursed through her. "I won't let you take me." With a violent motion, she fought against their grip, scrambling backward. Ignoring the pain coursing in her wrists, she bolted toward the nearest lantern, feeling its warmth radiate, beckoning her closer. As she reached for the light, cold laughter echoed like an ominous wave crashing around her. "You can't escape," they repeated, efforts doubling to drag her back. But Emma was resolute. In one last push, she grasped the lantern, fingers wrapping around the handle as she felt an electric charge igniting her senses. Light exploded, flooding the darkness, shocking shadows away, but it wasn't enough. A roar surged from the depths, a malevolent energy responding to her defiance. The faces around her paled, showing fear for the first time. "What have you done?" they gasped, their playful facade cracking, revealing true horror beneath. "Leave me alone," Emma shouted, flames of courage bursting hotter than ever before. The dark screeched, a chilling cry reverberating in the air as the shadows twisted in furious spirals, battling against the light she clung to. As the darkness began to retract, Emma pushed forward, fighting through the chaos. Each step felt monumental. Shimmers of light would flicker up her arm, brimming with hope. "This is not my home." But just as realization sparked within her, a figure emerged from the darkness behind Lily, a towering shadow cloaked in layers of despair, eyes gleaming with malicious intent. "You must choose, Emma, resign to us, or face oblivion." The enormity of the decision weighed upon her, leaving her breathless. She was at the edge, not just of the abyss, but of her very identity. With a heart that thundered against despair, Emma clenched her jaw and whispered fiercely against the fear. "Let them go, or face me." The chaos paused, every figure's breath held. What would happen next? Emma's command filled the air, charged with an uncertainty that both frightened her and made her feel alive. But would it be enough to save herself and Lily, or would she be pulled into darkness beyond recovery? As the shadows loomed dangerously close, she realized that the choice she faced could shatter everything. The darkness slithered closer, and for the first time she understood it wasn't just about her survival. It was about freeing them all or damning them forever. The moment hung thick in the air, a tangible tension cracking like electricity. Breath shallow, Emma stared defiantly at the towering figure behind Lily, its darkness swirling like ink in water. The laughter faded to an unnerving whisper, replaced by a heavy silence that wrapped around her heart. "Choose, Emma," the shadow intoned, voice like gravel grinding against stone. "Join us, live forever in delight, or plunge into the abyss, lost forever." In that moment, Emma felt a flicker of recognition beneath the fear. It was a choice she hadn't fully appreciated. "You aren't just shadows. You are memories, fears, regrets," she said, her voice clearer than before. "You're made of everything that I've tried to escape." Lily's glow dimmed slightly. Her sister's words seemed to pierce through her joyous facade. "Emma, no, you don't understand," she pleaded, stepping closer. "This is freedom. I feel alive here." "No!" Emma shouted, shaking with rage. "You're a puppet, and they're pulling your strings." The shadowy figure behind Lily began to ripple, its form twisting as if offended. "Do you wish to deny what could be?" it hissed, anger lacing its tone. The air chilled, biting at Emma's skin. Yet that claustrophobic anger fueled her resolve. "I refuse to believe it," she declared, clutching the lantern tighter. It pulsed against her palm like a heartbeat, urging her on. "You are not my home. I will free each one of you or die trying." All at once, a gale-force wind blasted through the clearing. Shadows recoiled as if struck, their laughter morphing into screams, horrified and wild. Emma felt the ground tremble beneath her, each heartbeat vibrating with the pulse of something ancient awakening. "Leave!" she cried, thrusting the lantern forward like a weapon. Light shot forth, bathing the gloom in radiant brilliance. The joyfully twisted faces of the forgotten souls distorted and writhed, their painful grins faltering under the onslaught. But just as Emma felt the tide begin to change, the shadow surged forward. Warp-speed blackness eclipsing the light in a desperate bid for power. "You do not possess the strength to stand against us. Feel despair." Suddenly voices of the trapped souls flooded the air. "Help us, Emma, please," they called out, desperate and haunting. Each echo was a knife in her throat. The faces swam before her, pleading for release, while Lily stood there, both beloved and lost, caught between love and the darkness encroaching. "Free us!" they wailed, a chorus of agony that struck Emma to her core. "No!" Emma screamed, falling to her knees, the weight of their collective sorrow crashing down. She clutched her chest, gasping but refusing to relent. "I won't abandon you. I refuse to let the darkness win." With all her might, she poured everything, every shred of love, every prayer born from hope, into the lantern. It erupted with a blinding light, the warmth igniting a spark deep within the shadows. Then, with a decisive roar, she commanded, "Let them go!" There was a moment of stillness, and the darkness trembled, the shadows wavering. Fear rippled through them, and Emma caught a glimpse of something familiar, fragments of love and laughter woven with despair, caught in the horrific tapestry of this curse. But before any clarity could emerge, the figure behind Lily surged forward, its presence imposing. "You're fighting a losing battle, little one. You cannot save them all." It struck the ground, sending shards of darkness cascading toward her. Emma's heart pounded like thunder. She was out of time. "I am not done fighting!" she roared, recoiling from the encroaching shadows. "I won't back down! I will fight until my last breath!" The ground cracked beneath her, fissures snaking through the earth as shadows writhed in protest. Time twisted and stretched, as if reality itself was watching her. Then, amidst the chaos, a flash of light erupted from the lantern, flooding the space with a warmth that felt like a tender embrace. As Emma shielded her eyes, the darkness shrieked, unraveling before her. But would it be enough to save them all? Or was this mere bravado before their last inevitable doom? The shadows recoiled in horror, creating an opening. "Run, Emma!" one soul cried, their voice resonating through the chaos. But would she flee into the light, or face whatever emerged from the darkness? Time hung suspended, heartbeat echoing with each decision she had to make. Her next steps would determine the fate of them all. What awaited her on the other side? The light surged, pushing the darkness back, but the shadows danced defiantly on the edges, a menacing reminder that their grip was still strong. Emma's heart raced. Could she really save them all? Every ounce of her being screamed to flee, yet the souls echoed in her mind, their cries wrapping tightly around her resolve. "Emma, come with us," Lily implored, her ethereal glow flickering uncertainly. In her eyes, Emma saw a battle of emotion, hope, regret, and a deep-seated fear that threatened to consume her. "You can be free! You can escape this!" "No!" Emma shouted, clenching her fists as the lantern pulsed with light and energy. "This is where you need to be. Everyone deserves to be free from this torment." Suddenly, the figure behind Lily lunged, its darkness swirling like a storm, grasping at the threads of Emma's determination. With each step forward it took, the light dimmed, absorbed into the endless maw of despair. "You think you can change the fate of the lost?" It hissed, the air around it thick with menace. "You will join them, or perish with your futile hope." The earth quaked, the ground fracturing as the shadows writhed in agony, reaching for her like skeletal fingers grasping for life. Emma stumbled, fear clawing at her throat, but she fought hard against it. For each soul that cried out, she felt a surge of defiance rise within her. "Together!" she shouted, raising the lantern higher, its light growing more intense, consuming the darkness like flames eating away at fabric. "Together we can break this!" With tears streaming down her cheeks, she pulled at the very core of her soul and unleashed a wave of pure light. The shadows shrieked, recoiling as if scalded. Lilting voices rang out, harmonizing with the power of the lantern, and for a brief moment it felt as if they were rising amidst the chaos. But then the ground convulsed violently. A rift split open beneath her, its depths dark and hollow. "No!" Emma screamed, instinctively reaching out toward the dark edges of the chasm. Her heart thrummed violently. If she fell in, everything would be lost, her hopes, Lily, the souls trapped within the grasp of despair. "Help us!" The souls echoed once more, now desperate. Their dark silhouettes churned, flickering like dying flames fighting against a raging wind. The force of the shadows raged, pulling at her, desperate to consume, and darkness surged back with terrifying ferocity, relentless, unyielding. Emma felt herself teetering on the brink, the weight of countless souls filling her with anguish. She could barely hold on to the lantern, now flickering perilously close to extinguishing. "I won't let you take me!" she bellowed, pouring every ounce of her strength into the lantern, feeling its warmth radiate against her. "You are nothing but a collection of fears. I will face you all." With a primal scream, she surged forward. The lantern erupted in a powerful burst of brilliance, ripping through the shadows like sunlight piercing a storm. The darkness writhed in agony and began to dissipate. Faces appeared, familiar yet distant, twisted in pain and longing, as streams of light exploded around them, intertwining with the shadows. "Emma!" Lily's voice cut through, more insistent now, a plea to be released. "You must decide." A heavy silence settled on the edges of the void, as the last echoes of wails faded into the darkness. Emma's breath hitched in her throat. She stood at a crossroad. One step backwards would seal her fate in the shadows forever, while a plunge into the unknown would lead her to those she loved. Before she could take a breath, the ground collapsed beneath her, plunging her into the depths below. As Emma fell, she heard whispers, sweet and terrifying, calling her name, but they were not just the empty shadows. No, they felt like something else, something darker. Would they embrace her, or consume her alive? Would she find a way back? Or was this just the beginning of a deeper nightmare? The darkness swallowed Emma whole. The sensation of falling felt endless, weightless, yet suffocating. The whispers grew louder, swirling around her like a tempest. They were a vicious cacophony, each voice oozing with bitterness, secrets and despair. "Help us," they cried, but now there was something unnatural in their plea. She felt their desperation clawing at her skin, dragging her deeper, pulling her toward the infinite black. And then she stopped. Abruptly the void shifted. The air thickened, pressing against her like a heavy blanket. Emma opened her eyes to a chilling sight. She was no longer falling. Instead, she stood in an unsettling reflection of her childhood home. The walls, once filled with laughter and warmth, now stood warped, distorted. Shadows lurked in every corner, mocking her. Flickering lights overhead buzzed ominously, casting ghostly figures that danced in her peripheral vision. "Emma!" A voice slithered from the darkness, the familiarity prickling her skin. It was her mother. "Why did you leave us?" She turned, heart racing. Her mother's figure shimmered, caught between reality and shadow. The eyes were voids, hollow and despairing, peering into her very soul. "You promised you would come back." "No," Emma gasped, shaking her head. "This isn't real. You were gone. I tried to save you." A line of sorrow crossed her mother's face, and hastily the shadows thickened, enveloping her. "You can't escape your fate, Emma. You are trapped here with us now." With a startled breath, Emma spun around, desperate to find something, anything to hold on to. A chill enveloped her, crawling up her spine. The walls trembled, breathing with a life of their own. From the depths of the shadows, forms emerged, faces she recognized, faces twisted in eternal torment. Her friends, her neighbors, all trapped in that same grief. "Join us," they whispered in unison, the harmony blending into an unsettling lullaby. "Embrace the darkness, don't fight it." Emma staggered back, fear igniting every fiber of her being. "No, I won't succumb to this." She raised the lantern once more, but it flickered, its light struggling against the weight of despair. "You are not my family. You are not real." The shadows roared, thrashing violently, and the figures melted into grotesque forms, their screams merging into a single, rumbling growl. "You will pay for your rejection!" Without thinking, Emma took off running, her heart pounding like a drum. The ground beneath her rattled, and the whispers morphed into laughter, inhuman, mocking, echoing in the halls of her childhood. She sprinted through the endless corridor, desperately searching for an escape, the lantern barely illuminating the path ahead. "Emma, don't leave us!" they cried, their voices rising in urgency, filled with the hint of something maleficent that sent her heart racing. The shadows stretched towards her, twisting and curling, eager to seize her. She felt them brushing against her skin, like icy fingers urging her to surrender to the darkness. Suddenly, she stumbled through a doorway, crashing into a small, dimly lit room, a room filled with memories. The air was stale, impossibly thick. A weathered mirror stood against the far wall. Staring into its depths, Emma saw not merely reflections, but shifting images, nightmarish scenes that played out before her, her vision blurred, faces twisted into grotesque smiles, bodies writhing, all showing her what may come, all promising her despair. They reached for her, fingers stretching out, beckoning her in. Panic rose in her throat. In that moment, she could either reach out to the untold horrors or confront the truth behind the despair that chased her. Would the darkness truly consume her, or could she unearth a light strong enough to shatter this twisted illusion? As she glared at her reflection, the shadows swirled like storm clouds, whispering secrets in a language only she could understand. But what did they mean? What awaited her in the depths of the void? Emma felt the walls close in, the shadows longing for their victory. Emma took a deep breath, a fragile strength anchoring her as she stared into the depths of the mirror. It shimmered, reflecting not just her image, but also the swirling chaos of memories that twisted in the back of her mind. Shadowy figures beckoned, their faces hauntingly familiar, their voices like echoes from a past filled with warmth and love. "Don't let them take you!" a voice shouted from the shadows, cutting through the din. It was Lily, a glimpse of brightness in a sea of darkness. Emma's heart lurched. "Come on, Emma, we can break this together." But doubt clawed at her insides. Was this really Lily, or just another trick of the shadows? Emma took a shaky step forward, her instincts screaming to run. She squeezed the lantern tighter. Its weak light flickered uncertainly, mirroring her wavering resolve. "Embrace it, Emma," the shadows whispered, their voices intertwining into a cacophony. "Join us. We can be one forever." "No!" Emma shouted, forcing herself to hold her ground. "You're lying. This isn't freedom. It's a prison." With trembling hands, she glanced back at the mirror, securing her resolve. "I will not be part of your nightmare." The figures grew restless, pushing and pulling against the boundaries of the darkness. Emma felt despair washing over her like a wave. They had lived in this pain for so long. Were they trying to save her or drag her down with them? With a final surge of determination, she raised the lantern higher, letting its light burst forth like a beacon. "I will free you!" she cried, unleashing all the power she had fought to gather. "All of you deserve to live in the light!" As the light erupted, faces twisted in shock. The shadows writhed, flickering under the torrent of brightness. For a split second, disbelief filled the air as if time itself had frozen. "Stop her!" a voice from the depths roared, echoing through the space. "Stop her now!" Ignoring the fear that coiled within her, Emma took a daring step toward the mirror, stepping closer to her reflection. She could see the figures of her family and friends shrinking, fading, diminished before her eyes. In that instant she understood that the shadows were nothing but fragments of their fears, binding them to this hellish existence. "Let go!" she screamed, launching herself into the mirror's surface, feeling its coolness wash over her body like tears streaming down her face. The darkness surged as she crossed the threshold, a violent wind howling around her, pulling at her courage. Then a silence enveloped her, filling the void where the chaotic screams had clawed at her, a silence that seemed both suffocating and liberating. She stood in a new realm, surrounded by warmth, vibrant colors breaking the uniform blackness. In the distance, laughter echoed, real, pure laughter that washed over her like a comforting embrace. "Emma!" a voice rang out, familiar yet fresh, piercing her heart with longing. There was Lily, glowing, surrounded by a group of reassuring figures, family, friends, everyone she had ever known, everyone she had lost. "Are you okay?" Lily asked, stepping forward. Light surrounded her, soft and inviting. "You did it! You saved us!" Emma's heart raced as she embraced her sister tightly. It was all real. There was no darkness to tear them apart. As she released Lily, she looked around at the faces that had once been lost. They were free, free from the chains that darkness had held over them. "We can finally be together again," her mom said, joy radiating through her features. "You broke the curse, Emma." With each tear that fell, Emma felt the weight of sorrow lift. "I thought I lost you," she whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. But this time they were filled with relief. She had fought against the darkness, and it had not claimed her. Together they turned toward the horizon, bathed in warm golden light. For the first time in a long time, hope blossomed inside Emma's chest, a fragile but undeniable promise of new beginnings and endless possibilities. As they walked together, the bond that had been threatened by shadows was now fortified. Hand in hand, their laughter rang out, echoing in a place where darkness could never haunt them again. Emma could finally breathe, knowing that love had triumphed over despair. And as she glanced back one last time, the shadowy figures began to dissolve, their faces softening. She had been their beacon, guiding them. Their last whispers faded into a gentle breeze, a reminder that hope, even in the darkest of places, could always find a way to shine. Time had passed, but the memories would remain, etched into her heart, the struggle transformed into strength. Emma took a deep breath, feeling the sun warm her skin. They were free now. Together, they would forge their path, shining brightly against the shadows of their past. The end, for now, Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. And share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to show your support because only true fans understand the importance of moving forward together. Don't wait even one more second.